So we're going to start in the original Passover story, Exodus 12, and we're going to start reading 1 through 14. Not going to read the whole chapter because that's a lot. Starting in verse 1. And Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the children of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings. According to each man's need, you make your count for the lamb. So there's a lot of So I purposely did or dedicated this week's teaching just to Passover because I did the feast last week. We read through most of Leviticus 23, but there's a lot of details when it comes to observance of Passover. So I want to help you do your best to observe Passover next year and so on and so forth until Yeshua comes back. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year old. Take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings. So that phrase, between the evenings, or Ben Ha Arbayim, that trips a lot of people up, and I think a lot of people have trouble understanding that, and I did at one point. So I'm going to dedicate a teaching in this Torah 101 series just touching on that phrase because it's important to Passover observance. So we should do our best to understand what that phrase means. So I want to help you out with that as well. I hope this Torah 101 series is very helpful for people that are just coming into Torah now or sometime in the future or have been keeping Torah for years, for a while. I hope that is helpful to everybody. That's my hope. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts on the lintels of the houses where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled and all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts, and do not leave of it until morning. And what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire, and this is how you eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Passover of Yahweh. And I shall pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and shall smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and on all the mighty ones of Egypt I shall execute judgment. I am Yahweh, and the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall become to you a remembrance. So that's why we observe it now, because it's a remembrance of what happened when they came out of Egypt. We have to keep that in mind. And you shall observe it as a festival to Yahweh throughout your generations. Observe it as a festival and everlasting law. We should be doing it how long? Forever. So let's jump to verse 20 through 27. Get some more details. Do not eat that which is leavened. In all your dwellings you are to eat unleavened bread. And Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, Go out and take lambs for yourselves according to your clans, and slaughter the Passover lamb. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. So again, we see morning, significant when it comes to observing Passover. And Yahweh shall pass on to smite the Egyptians, and shall see the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, and Yahweh shall pass over the door, and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to smite you. And you shall guard this word as a law for you and your sons forever. There it is again. You're supposed to do this forever. The Messiah's death, burial, and resurrection did not change this command in the Torah. And it shall be when you come to the land which Yahweh gives you, as he promised, that you shall guard this service. And it shall be when your children say to you, what does this service mean to you? Then you shall say, it is the Passover slaughtering of Yahweh, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our households. And the people bowed their heads and did obeisance. So, what are we supposed to tell our children about Passover? For those out there that have children, because I don't, but if I did. So let's read what you can see on the screen is underlined again to see what we're supposed to teach our children about Passover. And it shall be when your children say to you, they're asking, what does this service mean to you? Then you shall say, it is the Passover slaughtering of Yahweh, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our households. That's exactly from the Torah what you're supposed to teach your children about Passover. So let's look and see in Numbers 9, 1 through 14, the Most High's mercy when it comes to observing Passover. Starting in verse 1 of the chapter. Numbers 9, 1 through 14. And Yahweh smote Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month, on the second year after they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying, now let the children of Israel perform the Passover at its appointed time, on the 14th day of this month between the evenings. There's that phrase again. So it's important. We need to understand that. I got your back. Perform it at its appointed time. According to all its laws and right rulings, you perform it. And Moses spoke to the children of Israel to perform the Passover. So they performed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month between the evenings in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that Yahweh commanded Moses. So the children of Israel did. But there were men who were defiled for a being of a man. So here we have a particular situation. Somebody's unclean. They're around a dead body. So let's see what instructions the Father gave Moses when that comes up. So that they were not able to perform the Passover on that day in the first month. So they came before Moses and Aaron that day, and those men said to him, and they're like, hey guys, what do we do here? We're kind of in a pickle. We are defiled for the being of a man. Why are we withheld from bringing near the offering of Yahweh at its appointed time among the children of Israel? So this is awesome because they had a desire to observe the Passover. They're like, we can't do it. What can we do? So we need to have a desire to observe the Torah. And Moses said to them, wait, let me hear what Yahweh commands concerning you. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, when any male of you or your generations is unclean for a being, or is far away on a journey, he shall still perform the Passover of Yahweh on the 14th day of the second month, not the first, the second. So the same day, but just the second month. Between the evenings, they perform it. With unleavened bread and bitter herbs, they eat it. They do not leave of it until morning. And they do not break a bone of it. According to all the laws of the Passover, they perform it. So according to everything in Exodus 12, just that's a reference back to Exodus 12. But the man who is clean and is not on a journey has failed to perform the Passover. That same being shall be cut off from among his people. Being cut, if you're not familiar with that phrase being cut off, it's a big deal. Any kind of cutoff offense is a big deal. And not doing Passover correctly is a cutoff offense. So we need to take it serious, brothers and sisters. Because he did not bring the offering of Yahweh at its appointed time, that man bears his sin. And when a stranger sojourns among you, then he shall perform the Passover of Yahweh. A stranger, not a native Israelite, a stranger. He shall do so according to the law of the Passover, and according to its right ruling, you have one law, both for the stranger and the native of the land. There's one Torah for everybody on the earth, folks. Passover is the only feast in the Torah where you get a second opportunity to observe it. That's a big deal, folks. Need you to wrap your brain around that. You don't. I think one of the most important feasts is Day of Atonement, but guess what? You don't get a second opportunity to observe Day of Atonement. You only get one, but you get two for Passover because it's that important.